This afternoon we're going to spend a few minutes playing around with RabbitMQ and trying to wire it up to a domain-driven design sample related to the one that's part of my Pluralsight course. Julie and I are working on an update for that, and so I'm going to update how I'm doing some of the message queuing communication between a couple of different applications. If you want to play around with this on GitHub, you can go ahead and navigate over to my Ardalis user and then look for DDD in the list of repositories. You'll find a DDD vet sample. This has all the .NET code in it for the current version of the course. What we're going to be working on is in a separate branch called .NET 5. And if you look at the .NET 5 branch, you'll see there's a new front desk project in here, solution, and it's going to integrate with the public website so that when a user schedules an appointment for their dog or cat, what they're going to get is an email telling them that, hey, if you click this link, it'll confirm that you're going to come to this appointment. That link has to live on a public-facing site, and the front desk application is meant to be an intranet app that's only used inside the clinic. It's not open to the public. And so the link is going to go to the public website. Now you've got a problem where the public website needs to communicate with the back-end website. And because we're using domain-driven design, we have different bounded contexts. We want them to have different databases and infrastructure and not share everything through one database. So the means of communication that they're going to use are messages. In the original version that's out there now, let me jump back to that, there's SQL Server Service Broker is what's used for this. And so if you look at this script here, you have to run this on your local SQL server to get things working, and it creates the queues that are used for the two systems to talk to one another. In practice, most folks don't use SQL Server Service Broker for this. Something like a cloud-based message queue is usually better. And I'm getting a text, but I'll just tell them that I'm streaming. And so, we would rather use something that more folks use. So we're going to have RabbitMQ for localhost, and then if you were going to do this in production, you'd probably use Azure Service Bus or an Amazon equivalent service. All right, so the cool thing about RabbitMQ is that you don't necessarily have to install it all locally to get it working. That's one of the appeals of it, is that if you have Docker, which more and more folks just have, you can just install the container using Docker and then have access to it from there. So let me show you what that looks like. I've already installed it earlier, but having this command after you grab the container is really all you need to run it locally. So I'm going to jump back to what the actual container call was, which, if I can find it, yeah, here we go. So if you just do docker pool, RabbitMQ colon, and then whatever version, so I'll do this, but it should be a no op because I just did it. Right? It's going to say, hey, I'm pulling it, everything's up to date, don't have to do anything. And then if we do this command now, this is already running on mine. So if I do a docker ps, you'll see that it's running. But it's got two ports that it's using. It's using 15672 and 5672. So I'm not a Docker expert. I've played with it a fair bit, but I'm going to see how that's working for me here. RabbitMQ I've used a little bit as well. Again, not an expert, so you'll get to see kind of what a beginner looks like going through this. Hey Brian, how's it going? Hey Shady. Some people that are usuals here showing up for the stream. So first thing I'm going to do is try and connect on this port 15672. And we should see what that looks like. That's the admin for RabbitMQ. So if we go to localhost colon 15672, we get RabbitMQ, and by default we should be able to log in with a guest account, guest login, and sure, let's save that. And so now this is RabbitMQ running in Docker on my machine. If I come in here and we just do a docker ps, we'll see a whole bunch of stuff is running, but one of them is this RabbitMQ image, which I give a name to of rabbit. So if we do docker rm rabbit, I think that'll do it. Error stop, no, docker stop rabbit. That will shut that down. And now you can see here that we're no longer connecting to the server. It died. Right? And if I hit refresh, it's going to spin and spin because it's not there anymore. And let's go restart it again with that command. And it doesn't like that name's already there. I think I can remove it now. There we go. And then we can restart it. Boom. Alright, if you get this this GUID looking thing back, that means it was successful. If we refresh this, we're back and we've got Rabbit. Okay. So now let's take a look at the Visual Studio project that we're going to be playing with, which I have open here. And this only has the front desk app. Does not have the other public-facing website in it still. So let me open that as well. So I don't care about these things. When the app starts, that's where we're going to want to kick off something that is going to be doing the communication with RabbitMQ. And so if we look at how this app starts, it's going to be in the main web application. And where is that? It's not that. It's core. Where did web app go? Alright. Look at the folder here for a sec. Source. Should be a frontdesk.web. And I'm just blind and I don't see it here. Are you not there? Alright, so there we go. There's our project. And in here, it's going to start up. And we're going to want, at some point when this thing starts up, we're going to want it to connect to RabbitMQ and then have some service that is listening on RabbitMQ once we're going there. Now, there's a few different ways to do that in .NET Core that I'm going to look up here in just a minute. But we also want to, make sure that we can connect to RabbitMQ and get all that working. So, as a first step, let's just create some code that talks to RabbitMQ. Because ultimately, I'm going to want that code to live in this infrastructure and wrap it with some kind of an interface. But I like to see working code first. So what we're going to do is create a new instance of Visual Studio, create a new console app, and just see if we can get something that shows that we can talk to RabbitMQ. So we're going to say create a new project, and it's going to be a console app. Worker service would be cool. Let's just do a console app for now, and throw it wherever, it's fine. Let's say it's a RabbitMQ test, and that's good. We'll create that. And this will give us some throwaway code that is like basically a spike solution that shows us, can we talk to RabbitMQ running locally? What does that look like? So I can do static. There's a link to async because we're going to be using async in here. And we'll say hello world. And then I've got some code here from another article that is going to help me out. And it says that I want to get the RabbitMQ client from NuGet. So let's go look for that. So I'm going to get a NuGet package for RabbitMQ client. RabbitMQ.c. Fine. Browse. Alright, how about just RabbitMQ? I need to talk to regular NuGet. There we go. Alright, so RabbitMQ.client. 36 million downloads. That sounds like what I want. Let's install that. I'm not going to update this right now because that's going to slow us down. Alright, so now we've got the client installed. That's easy. And in here, we are going to just have a name for our queue that we need to talk to. So we're going to say const string queue name. And it's going to be tests queue. And I'm going to paste in the URL of the thing I'm using as a helper here so that you guys can see it. I'm not totally just plagiarizing. So go and check out that article. I tweeted about it earlier today. But I have not tested this sample that they have, so I'm going to see if this works. So basically, let me just copy paste this whole try catch block in here. And See if I can paste that without line numbers. All right. So this says we're going to have a connection factory. It's going to need a namespace. That is the RabbitMQ client. We're going to talk to localhost with guest on 5672, which is what we're on. And every 3 seconds or so, we're going to do something. And that doesn't work. Oh, he got it to work in good. You're saying that's millisecond. This is saying it wants a time span. So let's just do time span from seconds 30. It's about the same thing. All right. Using this connection factory now, create a connection. And then we don't really need that because it annoys me. So we can stack the using statements like that, and it works fine. We're going to use this channel to create a model and declare a queue, and then while true, so looping forever, we're going to publish these things. And we're going to need the system.text namespace, and we're going to need the system.threading namespace. And that looks like that now, which is basically what the article had. Yep, all right. So that should be good. So we should be able to run this. So let's just Control F5 our console app. And of course it doesn't work. Disconnect directly contain. Oh, yeah. Well, that's supposed to be a comment. You're supposed to know that. All right. So let's try that again. Now the build still failed. Oh, what? Static main. All right. So I made this thing async for a reason. Static async tab. That's what I meant to type. And now we're good. All right. We'll run that. Console app fires, and we can see message sent, message sent. All right. So it's just going to do that forever until forever. Right, there's no way to stop. All right, so until I Control C. Okay, so now over here we still have browser window with RabbitMQ, and this is what I was hoping to see. So we are seeing live view of messages happening right now. We can see how many messages are in system. Right here we have 40. Now we have 50 total messages. And this overview gives us a nice view of this. So we come over here, we can see what queues we have. There's just a test queue. It's running. It's got 70 items in it. One channel. It's working at 2 per second, etc. So everything seems to be working. So that's good. The article was all good. All right. And the nice thing about this is all using Erlang, and I didn't have to install Erlang or know anything about Erlang because it's all in Docker. So I just have this Docker image running, and I don't have to worry about any of that. All right, so now we've got RabbitMQ, and it's got a bunch of messages in it. So we'd like to be able to read those. So let's go back to our test, and where's my console app? My console app. I'm going to kill that. And does this do any reading? I don't think it did. All right, so I'll show exceptions. There's a queue. It's going to just do a publish. What about reading messages? I don't know that the article covered that. It does show you how to get a message. So you can read the body of a message in the Get Messages menu. So even though I'm no longer posting messages, there's supposed to be a Get Messages menu somewhere. I don't know where that is. Queues, queue, should be a Get Messages. There it is, Get Messages. Get a message. So I got one message. It's 159 messages remaining, and I got this message. It has a nice random message. All right. I can do that again and again. Am I getting a different one? I'm getting the same one again and again. Let's get 10 of them. There we go. So now I'm getting different messages. Cool. All right. So that's all working. Now what I want to do is define a queue that will allow the back-end application to notify the front-end application, the front-end website, when an appointment has been set that it needs to change, that it needs confirmed, and then when the user clicks on the confirm link, they're going to hit the front-end application, and it needs to fire off a message on a queue to the back-end application and say, hey, this appointment was confirmed. And I've got that working all, like I said, with SQL Service Broker. Now I want to make it work with RabbitMQ. So the next thing we need to do, other than sending messages, which we have code for now, is how to consume a message from RabbitMQ. So C# consume message RabbitMQ client. Let's go Google for help. There's a RabbitMQ tutorial here, which maybe, hopefully, has something to do with C#. There's a C# client. There's setup, send stuff, and receive. All right. Sending we just did. Create the connection, create the model. Looks very much like what we did. Yep, basic publish, send some messages. And now we want to receive. All right, so on the receiving side, we need the same namespaces, and we need a message. We're going to create the factory, create the queue, and then we're going to loop and read messages with consume. All right, so we can just create another console app to do that, and I'll put it in here. I could even use the same one, just have it in two modes. But let's create another one. So do another console app, .NET, RabbitMQ test consumer. All right, and it needs to also have the same dependency. So now we know go to manage NuGet package, go find on the correct NuGet, RabbitMQ again, there's the client, install the client, and then our tutorial here, and we can basically just copy it. This is a static void main, it's not async, but apparently that's not anything we care about. Alright, the only thing we have to do is make sure our queue is the same. So my queue on the other one was test queue. Alright, so I'll take that, we'll put it here, and queue name is right there. Should be all we need. It's also go right there, and press enter to exit. This is going to do it just once. Okay. Alright, so we're going to have this lambda every time it gets received. We're going to write out this message was received. Right? And we're saying localhost. We don't specify a port anywhere. Hopefully it's just the default port. I'm assuming that that'll be the case. And it's not looping like the other one is, so it's only going to do it one time. But let's just see it. So we'll set this at the startup project. We'll run it. See if it fails. And it is looping. Okay. Where's the loop? Because it just sucked them all in. There's all their messages. Or how many did I get? It might be all of them. Okay. And it's sitting here. Is it going to keep working? How am I not seeing the loop here? Using this, using that, or that, consume that. Enter to exit. I'm not seeing it. Maybe this just spins. This thing must not just return. Basic content class consumer. That must be what it is. Channel.basic consume must not return until it errors out or something. Alright, so that means I can also come in here and set this as start a project and run it. And we should see messages being sent on the one side. If the other one is still running, is it still doing? No, it stopped. So it did only do it the one time until it ran out of messages and then it stopped. So in this one, there it goes. Alright, it is still getting it now. Alright, so we got sending and receiving. Perfect. Easy. Alright, so if that's all you want to do, you've got everything you need right here. The next thing I need to do is figure out how do I kick that off in a .NET Core app. So I want to run a hosted service inside of my ASP.NET Core app. So start a process. trying to see what to Google for here. And I think I want a background process to do this. Yeah, here's the one that's basically trying to do what I'm trying to do. Let's see what this does. So I found an article here. It talks about RabbitMQ, and we want to consume RabbitMQ in our ASP.NET Core service. So here's all the reasons why RabbitMQ is cool. Here's what the code is to do it, which looks pretty familiar to what we're doing. Implementation. Initialize this listener. Okay. Where do you put this code? Async. Subscribing to the receiver message. Okay. Run RabbitMQ and Docker. I'm doing that. And go to the dashboard. Did all that. Okay. So when do you listen to this? Publish. This just consumed. Right? So where are you wiring up the thing to start listening? Alright, implement the read functionality is more complex because we have to constantly check the queue if there's a new message. If so, process them. .NET Core provides an abstract background service. It provides the method execute base. Right, I know about that. You know where to hook it in. This can be overridden. In our order API, create a new project, message receive, install the RabbitMQ client, create a class that will customer update receiver, inherits from background service, class overrides. Alright, so I just need to look up wiring up a background service. And my background tab, there we go. So I've done this before. I just need the syntax. So registering hosted service, use it here and configure services. We just say add hosted service. Okay, easy enough. Implement iHosted service interface. I'm going to want a hosted service. It's going to have a start async and an execute async. Start async, it's going to start listening for the queue. Execute async, it'll call execute async to check the queue once. Alright. Driving from previous. Alright, so do you have a RabbitMQ version of this? So I could just steal that code. I hosted service for RabbitMQ. Let's look for that. I hate reinventing the wheel, and somebody's done this already, so let's look. Use RabbitMQ and ASP.NET Core hosted service. That's pretty much what I want. That's an awful lot of code that this person has ever. I don't think I should do that big. Service should be registered. Looks like this. Add hosted service RabbitMQ. Here's an example. A well-named example. That's the very thing I was searching for. Simple RabbitMQ client with a hosted service. Alright. Here's our service. So RabbitMQ service. That looks pretty much like what I want. Alright. So we can start from there. Alright. Now, this iHosted service, I would probably want, since it knows all about RabbitMQ, if I want to keep this information loosely coupled and be able to swap in a different provider for RabbitMQ, I really want this to be a generic, queue hosted service, and I want to be able to drop into it a RabbitMQ implementation. And the things I need to know when I drop in RabbitMQ are going to be how to create the queue, maybe, and then how to receive a message with consume if it's a reader, and then how to publish a message if I need to publish. I'm not sure what this is doing. So again, I think I want to see this thing working in a console app before I try and do it in my real thing. Fortunately, this thing has a console app, so we can just steal this, create a host builder with the appropriate things here, and Actually, let's just clone this whole thing. So that way I don't have to try and put it into my own code. So we're going to fork this. So why not? And I'll clone it here. GitHub's a good spot for that. So we're going to clone this thing from here to here. I'll go into there, and we'll just open this. So actually, we'll just run it. .NET run. Gonna work. .NET Framework 2.2 is out of support. All right. None of the specific endpoints are reachable. Right. Well, that's because my RabbitMQ is not set up like this one is. So, break. Let's have it talk to my RabbitMQ. And we'll open it up in VS Code. It's easier for me to type at the command line. And this service RabbitMQ really wants to have some default values for things like hostname. It should be coming in from some settings, but for now, we'll make it private const string hostname equals host. I think. And now hostname goes right there. Alright. And then it's got some queues. My queue was called test queue, I want to say. So this is probably going to be queue in test queue. Let something else do the out queue. So call that queue in. Just this one. We can get rid of this out one, or we just let it create it. Queue in. I think. Write messages. I'm not sure about this write message part. Think about that. Waiting for messages. It's not spelled right. Oh, good. That's his local error. Okay, good. We can fix that. Yeah, pull request coming in. I have a for E except after C. Alright, so we have a message received. That works. Start this, start that. Listen here. I think I got everything I need. So if we save that and run it again, the main thing we changed was what queue it's listening to. Access refused, logins refused using authentication plain. Alright, so how are we authenticating what's different? User and password, that's not going to work. Alright, so on my Visual Studio client, I used just the host name and no user or password. Connection factory. Alright, so here, just the host name, I don't need any of that. Alright, let's see what that does. Okay, operation interrupted. Equivalent are durable for queue, test queue, virtual host / receive true, but current is false. Durable. Alright, so mine, when I declared the queue, I said durable was false for the test queue. And this one, it's trying to re-declare it. And I don't need it to declare it because that queue's already there. So declare this queue. I don't need to declare this queue. We're just going to bind an existing queue, I guess. Okay, so get rid of that. And try to no queue.in. I'll get rid of queue.in. One more basic consume that needed to be, what did I call that? Queue in. Right. We're almost there. Let's run this one more time. Waiting for messages. Good. So you're listening on queue in. I want my RabbitMQ message sender to start sending messages now. So set as startup project. and run. And now we're sending messages. All right. And what are we getting here? Processing messages. But now we're doing it as a hosted service. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, so next thing is I want to refactor this hosted service. Kill that and that. And come back in here. All right, so we've got a very low-level hosted service with no abstraction, which is fine. This is a good sample to show how to work with RabbitMQ and how to use an iHosted service. It's wired up here with a host builder, configure services, add the hosted service. All right, so I could add this right now to my .NET 5 app, and I would be able to get this to work. Maybe that's what I should do. Maybe I should do that next, and then we'll refactor it to make it cleaner. Let's see if we can get this working in the real app. Okay, so when a new appointment is created in here, what's going to happen is it's going to fire off a domain event, which is under schedule, and we're going to say add new appointment. When we add a new appointment, we're going to add a new appointment scheduled event, and then there are going to be handlers for that appointment scheduled event. And those handlers are going to be like this email confirmation handler. That's the wrong one. That's the one coming back. So when an appointment gets confirmed, this is supposed to fire off. When it gets scheduled, let's go see where that event is done. So appointment scheduled event. If we find all references to this, we should see where it's handled. And there is a hub, appointment scheduled handler, here, that is in the front desk API. Let's go look at these. So this is appointment scheduled handler, and this is the same file. Okay. And there's also one here, this relay. All right, the relay is what I think I want. So let's look at the relay here. All right, so this is the to-do we need to implement. All right, so when we get an appointment scheduled event, what we want to do is fire off a message on RabbitMQ that is going to get picked up by another system that's going to send the email to the user to say, hey, please confirm your appointment. Okay, so this is not done. We need some kind of a service that will let us fire that off. And that couldn't be implemented by RabbitMQ. What did we do before? We had a message publisher interface. That apparently got yanked out of here. Do I still have an interface for message publisher? I do. I have an iMessage publisher, which publishes this. So I want that to go back in here, I think. Right, so this can just be iMessage publisher, and pull in that interface, and we will assign this to a field, that, and now I can use it, so I can say, go get me this appointment. So, not really a DTO that. Let's just comment this and see where we are with it. So appointment repository, get from appointment does not exist. We get an appointment scheduled event. What's on that event? There's an appointment on that event. So do I need a repository for this? I think if I've got the actual appointment, I shouldn't need the repository. So let's see. Appointment scheduled event dot the appointment that was scheduled dot I've got everything I need right here. So I know the appointment, the client ID, all this thing. The only trick will be if, like say doctor ID, I don't know who the doctor is. So this repository should let me get to the doctor as well, though, if I need to look them up, because they're an aggregate. And I can build whatever DTO I want for the message here. And so what does that look like? Right, what do I want to send here? This new event is a, we're calling an application events their integration event, their cross-domain event is what we want. So this is where we're going to translate from one to the other. And what the email needs to send is what? For designing that. So in order to send a please confirm your appointment email, we need to know the client's name, client's email, patient's name, patient's email, no, doctor's name, appointment date and time. Is that it? So we're going to say, hey, Mr. Jones, at this email, Fluffy has got an appointment to see Dr. Smith at such and such date, such and such time. All right, so that's my message I need to send basically as a DTO. So our new event here is this new message. Call it a confirmation email message. In fact, it's really a create confirmation email message. And this is going to be a new confirmation event, maybe? So put it under events for now. We'll call it a create confirmation email message. Event? Is it an event? It's not really an event, just a message. Like that. Alright, so I have to decide whether I want this to be an event or not, and it's just a naming thing, but it's something to think about. So for now, I'm just going to leave it as a message. And I don't have a folder for messages, or really a place to put it. So for now, I think I'm just going to create it right here in this folder, and we'll refactor. So we'll generate this class in a new file. It's right there. We want it to have this information. So go over here, and we need to know prop string client name. These are all just strings. Oh, maybe that's the detail. So we need patient name, doctor name. Another thing I forgot about, we need appointment details. What is it? I guess we'll call it appointment type or procedure name. Let's do procedure name. And then we'll say public date time, appointment date time. Alright. Okay. So client name is in there twice. That would just be doctor name. Are you not, I guess I don't need that to be in the constructor, do I? Okay. I want this to be public, I think. And I don't need that. Just a detail. Alright. So our service is going to create one of these. And do it right here. In fact, we can start with that thing. We'll start with it up here. And then our new message has some properties that we can fetch, like the appointment date time equals appointment scheduled event dot appointment schedule dot where's the date time range dot start. Alright, so there's that. What else we got? Create dot client name equals appointment schedule event dot schedule dot client.name, full name, client email, which I forgot. So let's go add that. That service needs to know an email address equals that, and I think I might just be able to get everything here without the repository. Let's see if these things are actually populated. I think the doctor name is going to be the problem. Appointment scheduled. Doctor ID. Yeah, so with meeting Doctor 123 is not going to be useful. So we need to fetch the doctor. So in here, say var doctor equals appointment repository dot get ID asyncs, and we need to await of appointment scheduled event dot appointment scheduled dot doctor ID, and this async of doctor, and that should do it. Using the generic requires 2 type arguments. Really? Oh, right, the ID. What is doctor's ID? It is an int. So there we go. Doctor comma int. Good. This is an int. Yes. And you're not happy because it could be null. So let's say doctor ID dot value. What should we do if it's null? Because that's going to blow up there. We probably want a guard clause or something. And we'll worry about that later. And then this now just becomes doctor. This whole thing is just doctor name. Easy. Alright, what did we miss? We got client name and email, appointment doctor. I think we need patient name. Client name and email, and procedure name. Okay, patient name and procedure name. You create patient name equals whatever. You create that procedure name equals whatever. Okay. So the procedure is also going to have to get fetched, I think. Let's see if we get patient name. Appointment scheduled event. Appointment scheduled event. Appointment scheduled. Patient. Name. That one's easy. Procedure. We have that. Appointment scheduled event. Appointment. Procedure. Appointment type. What do we call that? Appointment type. Appointment type. Okay, so now I should be able to build an email from that. I think all the things I need. And I don't need any of this. I just need to publish that. So message publisher.publish. And what do you expect, message publisher? You expect an iApplication event. What is that? iApplication event, is that just a marker? Or is that a shared kernel interface? It has an event type, which is useful. Do I need to know what queue it goes on, or is that going to be what the type tells me? Let's see. I could have multiple types of events going on to the same message queue. So let's just keep that for now. That just means my message needs to be an iApplication event. That's fine. I need to implement that, which means it has to have an event type, which I'm just going to say is the name. Name of create confirmation message. Yeah, your type is your name. It's probably a good reason why I'm don't want to do it that way, but that's what we're going to say for now. All right. So then we should be able to publish it. All right. So back here in our relay, this message here is there, and we're good. I'm sure I can clean this up so it's not quite as verbose and ugly. Maybe it's okay the way it is. Maybe this doesn't need to be so long, so let's just make this message. A lot better. It doesn't have to have a very descriptive name when it has a descriptive type, and it's only used in this much scope. So we'll keep it short like that. So the message bus to allow confirmation. Okay, that's pretty much still true. Instead of that scheduled event, though, it's going to be a create confirmation email message to bus to allow confirmation. Alright, that's good enough. Let's clean this up. Alright, now if I run this, it should just blow up because it has no idea what an iMessage publisher is, I think. But our error list, stuff not happy here. I thought I built this before and it worked. To-do item. I don't really care about to-do item anymore. That's probably why it's not working. Where is that? Frontdesk.web. Let's get updated to core 5. Yeah, it's 5. Well, I don't care about to-do item DTO anymore, so that can go away. I have a feeling it went away already here. Yeah, so these are just relics of when we created this thing. To-do items controller, I likewise don't care about, so that can go away. API models is not really a thing anymore. That to-do items controller. API folder, that alright. Create endpoints. Alright, so my to-do item endpoints don't need to be here either. Oh, you know what? The reason why the web project's not here is because we're not using it anymore. That's why it wasn't there. Oh, silly me. Because we're just launching all this from the Blazor app. Alright, now I remember. Can I just make that the startup? I'm so used to the old version, I forgot about the fact that we changed the startup. Let's see if I can just unload this guy. Forget about that for a minute. Alright, so let's just run this. That means my service is going to have to run in Blazor app, I think. Or no, the API app. Right, so that's running frontdesk.blazor, listing on 5400. Quite working how I want. Shade, are you still there? What am I forgetting about? How do I get this thing going? I think I have it all in the README. Let's go here. That's all we're having to key. There's no other browser. That one. Not that one either. Alright, send it in. GitHub.com/Ardalis/db-metsample. And get the code. Go to .NET 5. I'm pretty sure we updated the README. Specify that. Right, and then we can run it in Docker. Maybe I should do that. Or run it in IIS with all these things. API, Blazor, and the public app. Alright, so let's let's try Docker. So I can just go back to my, where'd it go? I had a PowerShell window somewhere. I've lost it. PowerShell. Alright, so there's that. We've got Docker Compose, so we can compose the app. Docker Compose build will build up the different images. So this should get us the front desk application, which is the main Blazor app, and it should also get us the two other apps, the API backend and the public website. The public website is going to want to have a RabbitMQ client, and so is the API, I guess. The API is the server-side part of the Blazor app. We don't want Blazor in the client talking to RabbitMQ. We want the server and the API to do that. And I was going to get a glass of water before I started streaming. I totally forgot. So I may have to take a break in order to do that. Okay, so when this is all done and running, I'm going to navigate to 5403 localhost, and we should be able to see the Blazor app. And if anyone's interested, I can show you what that Docker Compose looks like. It's basically just wiring up a set of Docker files. So in here, Docker Compose YAML shows you the different things. There's the front desk app, which has its own Docker file. That's the Blazor app. There's the front desk API, its own Docker file. There's front desk database, just using a standard SQL database. And then in here, there's the public website. So we also have that separate. We should be getting close to done. It's on the public website. That's the last one to go. And looks like it's starting up. Complaining about being in preview. And maybe it's running. Let's see. Got a lot of stuff on Docker PS. But let's see. We got RabbitMQ, eShop, Kubernetes. I don't see it. Oh, I didn't tell it to start yet. Silly. Alright, so yeah, we did Docker Compose build, and we did Docker Compose up to actually launch it. So now it's starting them. Now you see them all starting. And if I do a Docker PS now, we'll see. There's the server starting. Alright, so Docker Compose build is the slow one. That's the rebuilds all the containers. And then up launches them all. As you can see them running now. And so that means I can go to localhost 5103 to see the front desk API. And I think has a Swagger endpoint. There's all of the APIs. Should probably change that link to go straight to here. Over here, we can also go to front desk. And so front desk Blazor should look like this. Boom. Okay, that works. Alright. And we can move appointments around, for instance. And that works. We should also be able to see a problem if we try and have the same appointment come in twice. So if I come in here, add a new appointment, save. There's Darwin at 11 a.m. and 11:30. We'll add that there as well. Save. Alright. Thought we had a visualization showing. Yeah, we get updates when they're updated here, which is nice. When the same patient is in two different rooms at the same time, they should get a like a red border or something. But we haven't implemented that fully yet, apparently. So I'll get that going again. You can also edit all the doctors, all the rooms, all the clients, all in here through Blazor. We go through how all this is written in the course. What I want to do now is figure out where to start talking to RabbitMQ so that when I added these new things, like I just did, they should fire off messages to RabbitMQ. And then the other side of that should be picking those up. And it should create the queue if it needs to, but it shouldn't blow up if it's already there, is the thing. So now it's time to go figure out where to put that iHosted service, and I think I know. So we're going to go into front desk. We're going to go into our API project. That's the one I want. And in startup.cs, we wire up an iHosted service in services. Services, and we have both development services and production services, both of which call configure services. So I have to think for a second, is this something I want to change, whether it's in development or production? And I don't think it is. I think we want it to run every time. So we're going to add the code for that in both places. Alright, so now I just need to find where I was configuring, which browser window had my code for configuring iHosted service. And that would be in this thing. No. Close this down. And it was that one either. It was in here. It was there. Alright. Yeah, the one that I cloned. So in this program.cs, we do this one line right here. So add a hosted service. I'm going to put that in my front desk. And after we do all the other things, here, they add this hosted service RabbitMQ. It doesn't know what that is, so we're going to add it. We're going to add it here. I guess we'll add it here to start. So I've got another one here, and I'm going to just take this whole thing, like that namespace. We've got this working. We'll keep just the class name, not the namespace. Copy that into here, and let's drop it into root for now. So I'm going to add a new class. RabbitMQ service. It's not going to stay here. And paste all this in. Service RabbitMQ. I don't want that to be RabbitMQ service. Alright, now you are going to need to know about that client. So we're going to add a NuGet package. Okay. Where'd you get the calendar control from? Coder0001 asks. That's a Telerik control. So that's part of why you see my NuGet keep defaulting to Telerik's NuGet. I downloaded their Blazor trial. And you might have seen also when I was navigating around, it popped up a thing there for a second that said, hey, you should buy this. So yeah, I used their Kendo UI scheduler tool in the previous version of the course. And since we're using Blazor as our front end in the new version, we're going to use the new Blazor version of that same control. Thanks for the follow for you, CAI. Let's get this thing building. So what do we need? My hosted service, that one's easy. These are going to need RabbitMQ, and that takes care of most things. That happened. Token, venting, basic consumers, Rabbit, coding, system text, body. it worked in my other program. Read-only memory of byte is 2 byte. These delivered bars. How this changed its type. Read-only memory of byte. Guess that should do it. Can't find RabbitMQ. So let's go to RabbitMQ service. Alright, build that. Works. Okay, so what is that doing? It's just listening and spitting stuff out in the console, right? That's all we wanted to do is receive messages, just sending. This publishing I didn't think I was doing anymore. But we should just be not declaring, but reading in off of test queue, whatever's there, printing it out. So let's see if this works. So I want front desk API to run. I could run it locally, but I could just do another Docker compose and get everything running. So that's what I'm going to try. This might take a moment. So I'm going to shut everything down. Docker compose build it up for me again. That might take a minute. And we'll Docker compose up. And what we should see in our output here is those those messages saying that it's trying to read that queue. Now at the same time, I want to go find my console app that we had, my other Visual Studio, which I have many of now. This one, right? And this one right here is the one that's dumping things to the queue. So we're going to run this one. It's already set as startup. And once we reset up our Docker containers here in a second, hopefully we'll be able to see messages being processed in the API app as an iHosted service. There's no reason why that shouldn't work. We can also see in here that we do still have 39 messages sitting there ready to read. So even when it just starts, it should be able to read those 39 messages right away. Now the problem with the Docker compose build, Docker compose up thing is mainly just that it takes some time. So you don't necessarily want to do it every time like that. But the benefit of it is that it gets everything working in one fell swoop, and it works like 99% of the time, even across new install. So that's the main reason why I'm trying to use it for the course samples, is because I want folks to be able to get this working the first time they try it and not have a lot of troubleshooting they have to go through. Alright, so step 9. Anybody have any questions about any of this stuff? Like, obviously, I'm not the biggest expert on RabbitMQ, since I'm learning about it as I go here as well. But questions about domain-driven design or clean architecture or .NET Core, Pluralsight. We got a few people watching the stream now, so ask me anything. Oh, too late. Time's passed. Ready to do our Docker compose up. Alright, so this is going to run, and they're going to blow up, and we're going to stock an exception. Was that related to RabbitMQ? Let's go find out. So if I can scroll up a little bit. Yeah, that's a RabbitMQ. Connection didn't fail, connection refused, yada yada yada. Alright, why are you not working? Worked on the other one. RabbitMQ connection failed, it was refused. Worked in a console app all by yourself, and now you don't work. RabbitMQ still running, it's right here. I think because it's Docker. I think because I didn't put RabbitMQ in the Docker container. That's why it's not running. So when I compose this Docker, with this Docker compose that I was showing you, it's in its own network, and it can't see my RabbitMQ out here. So that's the other reason why I need to do this through that. It's because I think I have to set up Docker Compose to use this Docker thing that I've got going. If I'm right, then I just need to configure Docker in my Docker Compose file. So let's stop this and code. Where did I like this? Code dot there. And I'll bring this up here. Kill some of this. Look at that Docker file. So Docker Compose YAML. These things. My services are all the ones I just mentioned. But in addition to a front desk DB with a container name, I also am going to need a RabbitMQ. Alright, so let's see if I can find an example Docker Compose YAML RabbitMQ. Somebody's already done this. So RabbitMQ Compose. Here's an example, perhaps, that we might look at. This says Rabbit1, that's the same one I'm using, that's good. Same ports, same everything, I think that's what I want. I don't know if I need any volumes for plugins and whatnot. I think I just need this. I probably want that to be yes, yes. I don't know about that Erlang cookie. Alright, so we're going to have Rabbit1. Probably needs to be indented to there, and these all indented to there. Now everything's happy. I want this to be guest, guest, and these ports to be those ports. Now, I won't necessarily be able to see that, or will I? Not sure. Let's see if that works. Alright, so try and build that, see if it blows up on me. Meanwhile, let's go find my other PowerShell Docker thing. PowerShell. And we'll check Docker PS. Let's see. Still got my other Rabbit one running. It's right there. So we want to Docker kill Rabbit. And that seems to have worked. And it's not there anymore. So good. I don't want that one stepping on this one that's about to happen over here. Alright, now I didn't change the override for that. And these all had overrides for front desk API, etc. And they're mapping these external ports to those internal ports. I don't know that I need that for anything on here. I think I should be alright. John Calloway, how you doing, sir? I'm trying to merge RabbitMQ and Docker and ASP.NET Core and Docker Compose, all the things. Very enterprising today. No Kubernetes though, not yet. Alright, so this, if it worked, I should have done something with Docker up in here before public, right? Let's see it. It's alright, let's just assume it worked. Docker goes up. Let's see if it blows up. Okay, so same deal, same error. Alright, so that didn't fix it. I did see a bunch more Docker stuff go by. Let's see. Oh, you know what? I think maybe it's dying because RabbitMQ is not up yet. Okay, so this failed connection refused because Docker's not there yet. Maybe I need some delay or retry logic, or maybe I just need Docker to start first. Because they all kind of start in parallel, but here's, or sorry, not Docker, Rabbit. They all start in parallel. Here's Rabbit launching later, after the thing already tried to connect to it. Obviously that's going to be a problem. RabbitMQ, install Rabbit, Rabbit. Starting up. Alright. Initiated. Which you can force order by adding depends on in your compose. That's true. That's a good call. I could do that. I'm not sure it'll wait until it's all the way up, though. I've run into that before where it doesn't wait. But if nothing else, let's move this to the beginning. Alright. Its front desk API is what's hitting it, looking for it, and failing. That's horrible. There we go. And then this should have a depends on. Rabbit 1. Why is that not happening? Expected an array. Alright, fine. It's not quite an array. It needs to be that. There we go. Alright, so I shouldn't need to build it again, should I? Just do Docker compose up and see what happens. Okay, stop all the things, Docker compose up. Should check out the depends on this time, right? And Shady says if there is an endpoint, I think we need to use this host.docker.internal. Where is that? Internal. Is that another file I need? Or is that the network name? Yeah. I've heard of that, Shady. I just can't remember where I need to do it. That is the host name of the host machine on the Docker network. Right. Where do I use this host name? Instead of Rabbit 1, maybe? Is that what you're saying? I'm thinking this is close. If your containers are only talking to each other and not the host machine, you'll... Okay, good. I'm not trying to talk to it from the host machine. It's within this network. They should talk to each other. RabbitMQ is using an endpoint to connect to. They're connecting to RabbitMQ on these ports. The internal network. That's all I want to see. So we'll see if it works. So we'll try Docker compose up. So it's all learned together. Aggregate exception connection failed to the socket. Alright, so it didn't care about the depends on. It still tried to run that straight away. I've seen that before. I've got a fix for that though, if I can set that up. Is Docker compose just running it locally? Yes. It's just this whole thing is only meant to be run locally, honestly. It's just a sample. So locally is it. So RabbitMQ starts up here, but things tried to talk to it here. So front desk API is still kicking off right away, even though we said that it depends on the other one. Now, it's possible that that didn't change because I have to build again. So maybe that's the case. So I do a Docker compose build because I'm lazy and I don't want to wait for it. So we'll see if that changes it. I don't think it does. And I think I need to have some code that does the waiting on it, which I have in the specification repo, I think, in my tests. Maybe. Let's see now. So while that's building, I'm trying to find where I've got this sample. So this is a post I wrote last year about running integration tests with a real database, right? And the reason why this is handy is because some things like any-framework core queries, they don't do the same thing in an in-memory version as they do against a real database. And so if you want to be able to run these in a pipeline, you want them to be self-contained, it'd be nice if you use Docker to create a self-contained database using SQL Server, and then you could run your tests against it. And that's what this does. But for these tests to work, they have to wait until SQL Server is up and running, and that's what this does right there. So basically it says, hey, go grab this wait command from this GitHub URL and then run it. And what it will do is it'll wait for a particular thing to be ready. So then this command runs wait and then it runs the test. So let's go see this in action. So what this does here, this screenshot, shows it waiting. And the wait is configured somewhere to wait for a particular port. And so right here, you see at the bottom, it says checking availability of database 1433. That's where it's waiting. It says not available, not available. And then when SQL Server launches, then it'll start making the queries. And so I have that code. I just have to figure out how to use it in this scenario with RabbitMQ if I need to. So, all right, so that ran. Let's try the Docker Compose up again, see if the depends on works. Still got the socket error. And so, but did RabbitMQ go first this time? The socket error seemed like it came later. Yeah, so Rabbit launched, and then our API app launched, and then we still got a socket error. So that's interesting. So maybe it depends on worked in this instance. I don't need to do the wait thing, which would be nice. So now the question is just why can't it see it? None of the specified endpoints were reachable for RabbitMQ. We could just add a restart policy on the service, assuming the container doesn't come up with the connection doesn't build. That would be a good idea also. So is there a way on an iHosted service to do that? And the other thing that Shady's talking about is like in our actual code in Visual Studio, we were saying to use localhost here, and also in the vet project here. I'm configuring this to be localhost, and that's what you're saying, Shady. Should be host.docker.internal. Yeah, so let's try that. So let's say host.docker.internal. And the other question is, what do I do if this fails? How do I get this thing to restart automatically? So the start async calls this .run and then finishes, but if it blows up, then that's it. We don't have another chance. So I hosted service with retry logic. We do that. I think I want to. I just need this thing to be in a loop, right? And if it fails, I just want to sleep and try again. To do wrap in a loop, try catch with try logic. So we'll work on that next. But we'll build this. We'll see if the host.docker.internal works. The problem with this is need this when running in Docker Compose. Otherwise, the problem is I want to be able to configure this. So this really needs to come from an environment variable that I can set in the Docker Compose, and otherwise I'll set it in the app settings. So replace set. Right, so now the build was successful, I believe. This can die, and we can try it again. Docker Compose, helping. Docker compose build. All right. Grape juice on ice. Thoughts on RMQ client versus something like mass transit and service bus to abstract away messaging and broker? Well, I'm trying to keep the scenario, the demo, as simple as possible. And so I don't want to have them have to know about or install multiple different third-party products. And mass transit and then service bus are just a wrapper over some transport layer. So they'd still have to configure some transport layer, whether it's MSMQ or RabbitMQ or Azure or whatever. So that's my thought. I could be wrong, and you could tell me that no, and service bus just works out of the box, and you don't need any of this. In which case, I would still say I'd rather do something simple. Like I think RabbitMQ is simpler and lower level than service bus or mass transit. But it would be good to know if I could just use those and they would just work out of the box. Yeah, so once I get this RabbitMQ thing working, hopefully the network layer will work inside of Docker Compose, and then it's just a matter of refactoring the code to be cleaner. Because right now it's really nasty that I've got all this RabbitMQ specific stuff just dropped right in my API project. That is definitely not going to be the final code. This is, seeing how the sausage is made at this point. And then the other one that we're going to have is the public-facing web app. And where is that? So the public website is in VetClinic Public is in VetClinic Public. All right, so I need to go touch that one and have it also have an iHosted service. It's going to also be checking the queues because we need the same thing on both sides. What is the host name for? If Mochi Komi asks, if it's supposed to be for the Rabbit host, you need to use the container name configured in Compose. Okay, so then you're saying that it would have to be Rabbit1 instead. So the question is, should this be localhost? Should this be host.docker.internal, or should this be Rabbit1 because that's what I called it right here. That's its host name. And we'll find out, right? Looks like it is failing for a different reason. I think we made progress. So it failed. If you're watching really fast, let me find it. It said it couldn't find the queue. And that's because I commented out the part that was creating the queue, because I already had the queue. So, where's it? Up here. Still farther. All the way. Oh, it's too far. I know I saw it. Okay, we said Docker Compose up, and Rabbit starts up, and Rabbit does its thing, and we get to the API. I went too far, that's what it is. We get to the API right here, and it says exception, AMQ was closed because not found, there is no queue, test queue. Okay, so I need to put that code back in to create test queue, but this proves that it was able to talk to it and that Shady's fix did work. So we don't have to use hostname Rabbit1 for what we're doing in here, but we do need to say we're going to declare this queue that we took out. It's durable, it's exclusive, etc., etc. So we'll do that. All right, so build this again. Everything works. Unfortunately, to test it, we have to do the same dance again of build and then up. But when we do, we should actually see some messages spitting out saying that it's got that's reading the messages off the queue. I think we're almost there. So give this a moment. It's fairly quick now. It's just building these relatively small apps. All the dependent images it needs, it's already got downloaded and cached. And then we'll do the same thing in the front desk app. So let me pull that here. Front desk. Clinic public. I don't remember which one of these is the new one. Must be that one. Oh, maybe. Docker compose, what did you say? You said front desk public was vet clinic public, vet clinic public. Alright, so that's this one. So here's my new public facing website. And I have to open that with preview. Otherwise it's not going to like it because it's .NET 5. Alright, so in our public facing website, we're also going to want to do this iHosted service in here so that it can pay attention to that message queue. It did open it. I wonder if maybe we didn't make it .NET 5 yet. Thanks for the follow, Kingoli. Is it .NET 5? Yeah, it's .NET 5. Alright. I guess it was still able to open it. That's good. And there's not a whole lot to this, right? It's just an MVC app with a home controller that spits out an index page here that just says your vet clinic. Right? But in its startup here, we're going to do configure services. We're going to configure an iHosted service that's going to basically be the same as the other one, listing on the other side of things. Right, so that's the front end app. Over here, we finished our build. Let's do Docker compose up. Let's see what happened. Still got an error. That was before Rabbit fired off though. Let's see what we get. There's Rabbit. And there's front desk API. And those 50 endpoints are reachable. Connection start was never received. Do a timeout. You didn't wait very long for that timeout, did you? That flew by in like a second. But basically our connection factory isn't working now. It's weird because it worked before. Alright. Mochikomi says, when running a container, the names mean localhost is this container. Host Docker internal means the Docker host machine. Host other containers in Docker. Host Docker internal works. That means you bound the Rabbit container ports to your host machine. That would make sense why this is not working, because I killed the Rabbit service on my host machine. Alright, you got me. Shady was helpful for a moment, but not what we want. I think you are correct. Mochikomi, we're going to do Rabbit 1. Alright. And we'll say this, and we're going to comment out those two, and we're going to say localhost when running in VS, no Docker, RabbitMQ running on localhost or in a container, or we're going to say host docker.internal. This is Rabbit running on machine app running in Docker, and this is everything in Docker via Docker compose. Right. So let's try this one last time and see if this works. And again, I'll have to pull that stuff out into some settings or environment variables. Thanks for the follow, Kingoli. Mochikomi, you're vindicated. Let's Let's make sure I don't have anything else that's saying localhost on here while we're waiting. I don't think so. It's just that one host name, right? Exchange, direct, exchange. Good. Alright, so in here, let's build. I should just keep streaming all day because my audience just gets bigger and bigger over time. Like nobody just tunes in right at noon or 12:05 when I start, but you know, 20 to 2 when I'm getting ready to be done, everybody wants to join. Or maybe I just need to start at 1:30. If you're actually listening right now, is it better if I start at noon for you, an hour and a half ago, or is it better if I start now for you personally? Julian, thanks for the follow. John says full day. So what, I start at midnight Eastern time and just go for 24 hours? Hector says now. The fact that a bunch of people just joined is probably like telling me that they should be saying now, but or now. Now is better for Europe, but it's later. Is it because it's after dinner time or after work, or why is this better for Europe? Because this is what time is it for you, Malachi? Depending on where you are in Europe. If you're like +6, you're at 7:30, like 19:30, thereabouts, 19:40. Is that's better because it's after dinner time? I mean, it's Friday night. Normally you'd be wanting to go out or something, perhaps, but maybe not because everything's locked down with COVID. 18:40 for you. Okay. So you're probably in western part of Europe, not Germany or further east. Okay. Come on, build. I have a reasonably fast machine. I wish this were a little faster. Let's see if this is CPU bound. Yeah, pretty much CPU bound. Now some of that is actually just me streaming. Germany is also 640. Really? Oh, did you change your clocks? Because I know ours are changing here shortly. I think we're closer together for this one window. I think. Did you change your clocks this past weekend? So I thought Germany was +6, and UK +5. All right, so that's that. What's taking up the CPU? Is it? Not Visual Studio. It's certainly not what I would expect. All right. Yeah, none of this is what we're actually working on here in this console. It's all kinds of other junk. I think I need more RAM. 97% memory. Okay, yeah, it finished. All right. Let's see one more time. It worked. Socket exception. Stuff failed. Stop it. Why did we fail this time? Unhandled, RabbitMQ. None of the specified endpoints were reachable. Connection refused. Guess why? Connection. Service line 72. Doing something crazy on line 72 of the right file? It's not the right file. This is the right file. There. Okay. And line 72 says run this. Go to line 35. Line 35 is where it's going to fail. Line 35 is going to be, hey, create connection to my host name. And it's going to be called Rabbit1. That's all I'm passing. You know what I didn't pass was guest. And I put that like a fool. I actually set those right there. And so I need those things, I'll bet. This is the part that's painful about doing stuff with this Docker. What's the word I want? This very slow feedback loop of using Docker Compose as my actual way of debugging this. And the problem is that I'm just not doing everything exactly the same. So I tested everything with the console, and that was fast. I was able to quickly see what was broken and what worked. And then when I said, hey, now I'm just going to implement it in Docker, and then I changed stuff. And that was stupid of me, because that's why we're hitting these errors. So now that it's guessed, which is how it's configured, hope that it will work. And so we have to do the whole stupid dance again right now. All right. Memory also doesn't look good. No, memory's got problems. My memory is shot. And the computer's not looking good either. Last Sunday you changed the day. Yeah, so I think it's only for this week that we're that close. I think next week the times will be off again. Because our fallback time change is this coming week. Docker prune freed up 29 gig for you. Nice. Of memory or of... That was hard drive, right? That wasn't RAM. It's early bot. Alright, we have to watch Docker Compose one more time. This will be one. Alright, now that it actually has credentials correct to connect. And it creates the queue. We're so close. Yeah, exactly. Everyone wants 1 more hour of 2020. This is a fairly new dev rig that I built. And at the time, 32 gig of RAM seemed like a lot. And it's only been like 2 years, and I'm like, yeah, 128 probably would be better. So, not even sure how much I can add. Take a look at my... I think all the slots are filled. I think I have to throw away what I've got. Yeah. So I've got 4 8s. I'd have to replace them with 4 16s or 4 32s. Only if you make bloaty images and runtimes. Yeah. Well, I'm not making so much as I'm just consuming. .NET Core is not bad, and my RAM isn't all coming from Docker. That's for sure. But 4x32. What is that going to go for? That can't be that expensive. Problem is when you search Newegg and you say, hey, I want 32 gig of RAM, it's like, oh, well, sure, I'll give you 2 16s. Like, no, I want to know what frickin' 32 gig DIMM is. So fine, let's just search for 128 since that's what you really want to sell me. Give me the 4 32s. Search. Or just ignore me. It's fine. I don't know why I'm on Saudi Arabia English. It's just search result took me there. Alright, 128 gigabyte of RAM. What are you going for here? I don't know what SR is. Are you still thinking I'm in Saudi Arabia? Why do you think I'm in Saudi Arabia? No, I'm not in Saudi Arabia. I don't want to know Saudi Arabian prices. Crazy? Yeah, I don't know. Let's try a different browser here. Newegg, 128 gigabyte RAM. It's probably got a cookie for Newegg. Yeah, figure that. So you suddenly think that I'm... Empty cache. Shoot. Clear. Clear. I don't know why it thinks I'm mobile. Get that out of there. Yeah, it does seem expensive. 128 gigabyte in RAM. I don't know what speed I want. Yeah, no, stupid. clearly I don't know how to search for memory, but there we go. So for $500, I can get some RAM. And it's, does it have LCDs in it? It's going to change colors. It's really important that if I pay $500 that it's going to be pretty. But yeah, it's got the RGB stuff with that. Alright. Or I could save 5% and only pay $1,500. I think that sounds like a deal. Way better than this one here. This 8/16s. That's crazy. I don't even have enough. Who has 8 slots on their motherboard for RAM? It's insane. Why would I pay twice as much for crappier RAM? That's not real. Alright. Killed enough time that we can now test this. One more time. And front desk API didn't have any errors. Look at that. Server's doing its thing. So it's running. I don't have any easy way to see it though, do I? Because I don't have that RabbitMQ exposed. I was thinking it would send me some messages when it was consuming them, but since it's that RabbitMQ that's inside of the Docker compose, there are no messages already created. And I have no way to create them at the moment. So there's not going to be anything spit out to say that it processed the message. But it worked, because there was no error. So right here, RabbitMQ is accepting messages there on 5672, waiting for messages on front desk API. So that's good. I think we're good. Alright, so the next step is start committing things and start cleaning things up. So I think we're in pretty good shape. Alright, so the next thing that I would do in here is figure out a way to take the RabbitMQ parts out of this hosted service and instead inject a RabbitMQ implementation. So let me see if I can make a little progress on that in the time we have left, and then we'll say we're done. So all I really care about when this thing starts is I want it to start listening. So this thing has a callback that it's going to specify. It's on message received. I want to be able to pass in that on message received as a lambda essentially into this thing, an object, and some event args. Now this one wants to be Rabbit formatted, which I don't like because now it's going to tie me to a RabbitMQ implementation. It's going to fire off those events every time. So I need an adapter in between that's going to take that thing and instead call something that I control. That's just going to be a little bit painful. Someone's already got an adapter that wraps this thing, right? RabbitMQ, what's this thing? Venting basic consumer. RabbitMQ, venting basic consumer wrapper. Wrapper to work in current environment. Alright, so someone has asked on Stack Exchange about, hey, could I have this interface with a message queue consumer and a producer, and it would have a list of listeners. So this is kind of what I want, right? I could just pass this thing a listener, and it would do the work of connecting to Rabbit here, and then it would implement my iMessage queue consumer. The producer would do whatever the producer does, but I would then be able to say that my iHosted service doesn't inject anything but this. Right, my iHosted service would take in an iMessage queue consumer, and it would just say start consuming, and it would be really short. And it would call into these listeners. Now how did he call those listeners? Here, this is producer, and here is his consumer, and it's a message queue consumer. It takes in these listeners. For each listener, we're going to say queue bind there, and then call that for each one. Okay, that makes sense. That works. So I might steal that, but let's see what people said, right? So this is his question. It's like, hey, how well would this work? Give me a code review. And the wisdom of the internet said that your dispose pattern is going to have issues, perhaps. Nice little tool. Instead of manually creating your models, use a lazy FT. Disposing static things is not a good idea. Thread safety you don't have to worry about in this context. For example, if Google told me that iModel was not thread safe. Okay. You perform this null check twice. Get rid of one. And that's all they said. Thread safety. What if there could be crashes? Sure. But overall, I think that's a good starting point for me. So I'm going to steal a link to that. I'm going to throw it in here with a comment. And I'm going to say create a wrapper around RabbitMQ. Consumer similar to this one. Alright. And that will be a task for another day, I think, because we're about out of time. I have some other stuff I got to get to for client work. So let's take a look at the live coders team over here. That's here. And we've got ads to watch. Coding Garden has a gazillion followers compared to me. Oh, look at that, there I am, I'm on the list now. So that got fixed. Oh, I haven't been on this list in forever, I didn't even notice. Alright, so usually I'll go hit up like Clarkio or Ed Charbonneau because he works on Blazor stuff. What do you think? Code Rush, Mark doesn't have hardly anybody. Anybody have a vote? Who should we raid? I don't know what Coding Garden's doing. Let's hit play. Let's get past this ad. Catch Coding Garden right after the break. I don't even think I have ads on my stream, so. Come on. Coding Garden's doing something with chess. Yes. Alright. It doesn't even look like code. Nobody said anything? Alright. Let's see what Clarkio's doing. James. C# 9. Oh, heck yeah. We're doing James Montemagno. I can go watch that for a minute. So, alright, we're gonna go raid James, whose name I need to try and copy here if I can. Just open up a new thing here. You know what would be cool would be if there was a button on here where I could raid him from my stream right now. But there's not. So I just want that. And I want to come over here. I'm going to say thank you everybody for hanging out with me for a little bit on Friday. Hit the follow button if you want to get notified. Ed Charbonneau just raided me. Hey, guess what we're about to do, Ed Charbonneau people? Because I was working on this cool Blazor thing right here. That's actually using these Telerik UI for Blazor. So welcome, thank you. But I'm also just wrapping up, so I'm going to pass you off to Ed Charbonneau here in a minute. Or no, you guys are coming from Ed Charbonneau. I'm taking you to James Montemagno, where we're going to talk about C# 9 features. But before we do that, if you want to get notified next time I'm working on this app here, which is all Visual Studio, C#, ASP.NET Core, and Blazor, just hit the follow button and you'll get a notification when I go live. Sadly, on Fridays I usually